What's up, guys? This is Heiss, and today we're out in Connecticut, and we're at Chris Adams' The Valley Local. It's an HO scale layout that features the New Haven Railroad in 1948, and it features some of the coolest operations I've seen on a model railroad. There's a little bit of busy, crazy, bustling main line, and a lot of fun operations down the branch, so you can get a little bit of the best of both worlds. Coming down to see this layout's been absolutely fantastic. Let's see it how I saw it for the first time. Okay, I'm allowed to come down the stairs now.
Yes.
Oh, this is gorgeous. And, oh my god, there's things all over the place. And thoughtfully weathered choo-choos. We love that. How cool. This is Chris's layout.
Hello.
So I know it's New Haven.
Yes.
And we're near New Haven.
Yes. Well,
But that's
about 30 miles east.
Yeah.
Yep. Old Saybrook.
That's all I got.
Okay. Well, you want the nickel tour then, I guess.
The nickel tour. Let's do it.
So this is Old Saybrook, Connecticut, and you are looking south. It's a little counterintuitive because east will be to the left and west is to the right.
Okay.
And the reason that has to happen is because of how the Y is set up here in Saybrook, so you can go up the valley line. Saybrook is a one-town layout basically by itself with the shoreline. It got staging off each end. So basically during an op session we'll have somebody on the east end, somebody on the west end, basically firing trains at each other.
Cool.
And the cool thing is that the timetable, I can do every single train that went through Old Saybrook to the prototype timetable to the minute on a 4-to-1 fast clock. It's about 30 trains during a session that go back and forth. So you really get a sense, especially if you're sitting in the stadium seats, which are the stairway.
Right.
You really get a sense of the trains going back and forth.
That is fantastic.
So it's a nice contrast to the branch line because when you're in Old Saybrook, it's just totally hectic. I've got a tower operator here that operates all of the turnouts in Old Saybrook. Those are the only turnouts that are powered. All the rest of the turnouts on the layout are manual throw because you're just on a local.
Sure.
Hey, hand work to me.
Does that actually match your track layout?
I don't know because Bill did that. So
Because it's got the hoopty around the station. It's definitely close.
And so as you come north out of Old Saybrook, there's a section that drops in here and you continue north.
Okay. We've got to drop in. Well, that just sounds too fun already.
So you drop in and it's a duck under. Once you get the train into Essex, you can take it out so people can move back and forth. But if you were in Essex, this should look very familiar because except for the coaling towers, everything is still there today. The Witch Hazel warehouse, the distillery, which is here, the station, the old feed mill, everything is still as it was back in 1948, which is the year that I modeled.
Cool.
So this is just very basic scenery so far, just ground cover for now. And as you continue north up the line, you'll come around the bend and it gets a little narrow. And as you go north on the line and around the bend, you'll come into the town of Deep River, and then you'll go around the end of the aisle and you'll come into the town of East Haddam. And those are all still in various stages of completion. But then you'll cross Shalerville Bridge, which is the scenic highlight of the line, before going through the wall into the other room where the whole rest of the line is.
Goodness. Okay, cool. And model railroads are always the work in progress, but you've got a nice base level of scenery in places that aren't done, but then some places that look very, very nice. And I really like the backdrops. Did you go out and take pictures?
Yes, almost, I would say 98% of the photos that I use in my photo backdrops have been photos that I've taken. Yeah. The only exception to that are historic photos that I've actually colorized and used in different areas where they're appropriate. You'll see more of that in the town of Wethersfield. I actually used some historic insurance grade crossing accident photos that were taken, and actually that is a great source of historic photos because litigation, you have to take pictures at the grade crossing,
right.
And it's all of the surrounding area. So I colorized those black and white photos, and then I used those as part of my backdrop.
That is, it's unfortunate that that's the way that the pictures were taken, but at the same time, it's very cool that we now have them, and that's a very fantastic use.
Thankfully, there's no accident footage, no body.
Sure,
it's just very innocuous because it's always long after the fact that they take the photos.
Right.
So.
goodness. Well, cool. Oh my
So
goodness.
yeah, if you want to continue
Yeah.
north, and you go around the bend and you come into Deep River, and then around the bend again you'll get to East Haddam.
Cool.
One of the things that I try and do, and you'll see this in different places, is I use prototype photos, and I use those as reference in order to figure out how I'm going to model the scene.
This is so cool because you're taking real scenes from the prototype, and you can look and you see the picture, you see the structure, you see the crossing, you see the track layout matches it. Most people typically, because of space constraints, you can't typically set up a scene like that. So the fact that you've got the scenes as close as you can given the space constraints while still keeping it interesting is fantastic.
Yeah, thank you.
I've only ever seen one other person really kind of do that sort of thing, and it's like, here it was, and here it is, 87 times smaller.
Exactly.
That's cool. So cool. Wow.
And I see you have some super elevation on your curve here.
I do actually. This is something that I definitely want to do at this end of the peninsula, because on the prototype it's actually pretty super elevated as well, and it is really cool whenever you see a train go around and it heels over, as long as it doesn't derail.
Of course.
It is pretty cool. So this is still in a stage of completion. Still have the ballasting to do and all that, which you'll see more of as you get further in the layout where it's more complete.
Sure.
But yeah, I'll have probably a couple of those Iowa scaled engineering squealers. So you'll hear the flange squeal as it goes around the curve, and so that'll be pretty cool.
It's those little touches,
Exactly.
those little things. That gets that. Yeah, that's awesome. Cool. Well, goodness, this looks like quite the fun run, and you've made a really good usage of this space that I can see, and it's also really well lit. There's a lot of thought that's been put into this.
There's a lot
despite not scenery being finished.
Yeah, well, thank you. It's cool. I definitely have a vision, and it's always a matter of, okay, does your reach exceed your grasp? Because you have an idea in your head and you want to try and make it there, and so far I feel like I'm getting there, and it's like anything else. The more you do it, the better you get at it.
Sure.
Are like that and that and that, or these two parts here, are these from another layout?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I'm glad you asked that. Nice segue. This guy here, his name's Chet Reck. He was kind of a surrogate grandfather. I met him when I was a young teenager. And all of what you see on this 2x8 section and that 2x8 section were all on a 4x8 layout that he had in his basement.
Okay.
When he passed, his widow wanted me to have the layout. When I went to pick it up with my dad, I thought it was bolted to the floor. He had used actual rock and granite for his scenery. It weighed 400 pounds. So we hauled that thing out of the basement to my garage in Milford, Connecticut, to my basement in my house in Milford, Connecticut, to the basement here. Every time it was like moving a piano.
No kidding.
It was awful. By the time it got here, it had sustained a little bit of damage, and I thought, something, it's time to retire the layout as it is and give it a rebirth. So basically everything from railhead down is me, and everything above, all the structures and everything are all his structures. Same 32 square feet, just differently constituted. Cool. He had fibertized brass rail, didn't really operate the layout very much, but what he did do is, using just the Walters catalog, because he was in a remote part of Vermont, he would get all these details, and he would do the interiors for the buildings.
Oh, come on!
He really enjoyed doing the super detailing back before it was really a thing. Before mini prints, before 3D printing, he would get all these little details from Walters catalog and have them mail ordered to him, and he would just go to town detailing all the buildings and everything. So a lot of the buildings have interiors. A lot of them are lit as well. As a matter of fact, there we go.
Oh,
so that's
so that building has about $200 worth of hot metal castings in it.
Back then it was only $50, but the minimum wage was 50 cents, right?
Right.
So
that's too cool, dude.
But yeah, so this is pretty cool because it's a nice legacy for him, and also, whenever we were taking the 4x8 apart, I saw little mini scenes and details that I'd never seen before, because you can't see that stuff on a 4x8 if it's in the middle of the table.
Yeah.
So now with everything on the 2x8 sections, it really does show off his work, and so I'm really glad to be able to share that with everybody else.
Yeah. I just asked because I noticed the track was different. For some reason, that's the thing I always notice is like, oh, okay, where did you cheap out on the track? No, you've got microengineering. This is good.
Exactly.
And then I looked over there and I'm like, well, you have Atlas turnouts there, but you've got microengineering here. And then I realized, oh, wait, that looks like it's done in a slightly different style.
Exactly right. Well, originally these two 2x8s were going to be the only layout I was going to have. Yeah, right. but they did actually. Originally, they hooked together in an L shape, and that's why that track under the photograph is where it is, because that actually tied in to the other end of the layout.
Oh, I see how the hills connected.
Exactly, but I had the presence of mind to think ahead, and I had built a track that had been a dummy track for many years that I ended up using. Now that's the track that goes in the back corner, and so that way you can just have the modules be wherever and still be connected. So, but yeah, to your point, this is all Atlas track in here, not Campbell's, Woodland Scenics ballast, and not much done in the way of weathering. When you get to the other room, you'll see that the microengineering track, you can start seeing that here. I've weathered all the ties, so it looks a little bit more hand-laid. And in the other room, you'll also see not only the ballast, but also the weeds and the grass between the rails.
Cool. Well, let's go take a look.
I'm loving your track work. How are you weathering it? Just chalks?
No, it's dry brushing craft paints.
Oh.
Yeah, and it gets very zen. To your point earlier, this is a very unfinished area. You just see the bench work. I just barely have it covered with some terrain. I've started mocking up the city of Middletown, and from Cromwell, which is at the end of the aisle, heading north, it's a lot more finished.
Sure. And all the static grass.
Yeah.
What a pain.
Textures and,
yeah.
Yeah, it's total game changer.
No kidding. I mean, it looks spectacular.
Well, thank you.
Goodness.
Yeah, that's. Yeah, I was hoping to get more switch stands done in time for this, but
with the lamps and everything.
Yeah, that's Rapido's rail crew. Yeah.
Cool. Oh, cool. Yeah, lots of scenery going on here.
So yeah, I started in that back corner and I worked my way south. And so as you head further into the layout, it gets more and more finished, except for that section of backdrop that I haven't finished yet. But
it's one of those things. Always the work in progress,
An idea
Yeah.
of the process of colorizing the photos, doing some Photoshop.
Sure.
Period cars in the photos, which is cool.
That is cool. I love the period crossing signs. I've spent too much time with crossing everything, and so anytime there's non-standard modern treatments, it's cool.
Well, those are 3D prints from Chris Zygmunt.
Cool.
As a matter of fact, and so I finally got a couple of them on the layout, which is very cool. And the whistle posts as well are Chris Zygmunt things.
Cool.
Don't they look nice?
Yeah, me white.
They're super easy to paint because the W is recessed, just like on the prototype. So
you
paint it white, and then you just blob some black in there and whiten it, and you're done.
That's so cool.
That's one of your colorized backdrop photos,
Yes.
right?
Yep. Matter of fact, that photo and the one at Jordan Lane are actually the same grade crossing as in Britain, but they're different sides of the grade crossing.
Oh, wow.
And
That's so cool.
Yeah, so then I colorize it, running it through.
God, that is fantastic.
It takes like 10 seconds. And
You,
it's done.
you really have to wait a minute, it is flat back there when you look at it from another angle.
Oh, look at the Hartford skyline. That's a postcard.
So yeah, that started out as a black and white postcard that I blew up and colorized.
No kidding!
Yeah, so you've got the Blue Onion Dome of the Colt Building, you've got the Travelers Tower peeking out from behind the tree there a little bit, you got the river there on the right. So so that's what you would see if you were looking north on the line.
Right. We just drove past that exact building on the way down. Oh, it's cool. One thing that I'm noticing that I really appreciate, some of the little detail things that you pick up on, the sidings being lower than grade,
Right.
different ballast grades as well. You can see everything. Your main is one thing, and then every siding at each industry, you see the different little bits of detritus that
Yes.
have arrived, and
Absolutely.
that it's just those little pieces of flavor. A lot of the modeling stuff is all about getting that little randomization, the little differences that, it doesn't seem like a big deal, but It makes the whole thing feel so real and cohesive so quickly. That's just cool.
And it's all layering. I mean, this is really just the first layer of static grass, and over behind the camera over here, you can start seeing where the additional layers and textures start coming on.
Sure.
So you just keep adding more layers and more textures, and then it starts looking more and more realistic.
Right. So cool. I mean, it's just a gorgeous layout.
Thank you.
Can't wait to see what you do with the rest of it. But goodness, I mean, it already looks like it's such a fun operation, particularly with how you're describing it. That's got to be cool.
It's a big contrast when you're up on the branch line versus down on the main line.
I
the
bet.
Main line, those trains just going back and forth, and you're trying to stay out of the way of the main line trains. Then once you get up on the branch, it's like, there's nobody else up here. I can stop and smell the roses. I don't care. There's nobody else on the line, and it really is a neat contrast in the operations.
That is cool. Yeah, because you had staging that we saw over there, and then so you're just sending.
They are just firing trains at each other.
That's so cool.
I mean, and it's really cool because it is according to the prototype. So you sit there and you're like, oh, yeah, the merchants is due, so here it comes, and yes, sometimes they get behind, just like on the prototype.
And that's an excuse to have big passenger trains, big freight trains, without having to have your whole layout be that size.
Exactly right. A one-town layout that way is very, very helpful because you can run just about anything through that scene.
Sure.
And that also, to your point, is helpful because that's the only way you can really match the prototype timetable to the times, because you only have the one town to deal with. You don't have to have all the other towns.
Right.
So you can just make sure that you're hitting that timing through the town, and you've got it dialed in.
Right. So you get a little bit of the flavor of the main line, enough that you get to see the variety, the different trains, the busyness, the bustle of it.
Exactly.
But then you can focus when you want to have that different experience, going out on the branch, switching cars, more relaxed, different kind of operating, switching kind of thing, which is the switching puzzles. Part of the biggest fun I find in operating. So you can have a little bit of both, and that's such a cool way to do it.
Well, the other thing that I found is that when you have the track plan emulate the prototype, and then you try to operate it prototypically, it's cool that you don't need to have switching puzzles because there's an inherent complexity anyway.
Sure.
If you're following the rules, the railroad rules, you're doing all the stuff that the prototype railroad would do. It's immersive in itself.
Right.
You don't need to have, sorting the cars out. I mean, even just setting out one car ends up becoming its own experience.
Yes.
And this is enough to keep anybody busy. You could spend an hour here.
Right.
Well, especially if you don't realize that on your locomotive, you not only have maximum momentum, but you do also have a brake. There was a guy that operated here. I had forgotten to tell him that F6 was the brake, and he was trying to switch in here with full momentum set at 250 CV4 at 255. The poor guy, I mean, he was overrunning stuff and going back and forth, and it's like, oh, why don't you use the brake? Oh, there's a brake? Yeah. He was here for 3 hours.
What is wrong with this thing?
It's like, oh, well. It's like, it's so much better with a brake. It's like, yeah, you think? But,
that's funny.
It's funny.
This scene here, Mark, with the freight house, look how the main routes through there.
No.
Yeah.
Why?
Because that's what the prototype did. The main actually went through the crossover. Because you had the house track on one side and the bulk track on the other side.
I get, like I see the this and the this. I see that, but why?
I guess we'll just have to ask the ghosts of the railroaders past, because
we need
that's
to go.
how it operated.
You drunk bastards! Why?
Right.
Yeah, we need to go grave digging with I don't know, lightning something, Frankenstein's monster. While we're at it, can we dig at Matthias Baldwin, please? I've got some questions.
Yeah, right.
But goodness, that's fun. Just woo.
Yeah, you go.
Yeah, 4 switches in the span of like 6 feet.
And then actually the prototype, whenever we get to Rocky Hill, they'd have to put a tank car on the pilot and push it south 3 miles to spot it at the what is a facing point switch southbound at Hartford Rayon, which is that complex there.
Okay.
That was the biggest shipper on the line during the era that I modeled. They made parachutes during World War II.
Oh, cool.
Pratt & Whitney took them over, and the complex is still there today, although I'm not sure what they do there. But those buildings are all still there today.
Cool. So there's spacebar, a lot of distance here on the prototype.
Yeah, about 3 miles compressed there. Matter of fact, right in that open field there is supposed to be a huge foundry.
Oh, well,
But that got selectively compressed right out of the railroad.
Z-scale, right?
Yeah, exactly.
The shrink ray got it. Yeah, you always got to make choices, but the fact that you've got real scenes that you can pull, it's just cool. I mean, the first time I ever saw someone do that with a layout, it was like, here's my binder of all my pictures, here you go, and it's like, wait, you can do that?
Yeah, it's very, very cool.
So seriously cool. And then this scene with all of here's the hustle and bustle, all of downtown slowly coming together here.
And this is Middletown, so whenever you were coming south on Route 9, this is the Aragoni Bridge. You would have crossed under that. You would have crossed under the approach to the bridge.
Yeah.
And then you would have gone under
the diamond we noted.
We saw this diamond.
Exactly
yes.
right.
We were like, either there's an absurdly sharp curve there, or there's a diamond.
Yep.
And I was like,
think it's a diamond.
Yeah, it's a diamond. We still see tracks.
So now you're perfectly oriented. So you're looking west here, and some of these buildings came from John Narek, who some people may remember from New England, Berkshire, and Western. So some of the buildings are buildings that he did. Dave Messer, somebody that had some articles in RMC back in the day. This is a block of stores from his layout.
Cool.
And I can't claim pride of authorship or buildership on any of these buildings, and it's just one of those things. You do some acquiring, you do some modeling, you do some building.
Right.
But trying to do a layout of this size and scope and this number of buildings, you're not going to be able to, or I'm not going to be able to build them all.
It's going to take you 2 decades if you're doing it, Yeah. So.
Also, that's part of the fun too. Is like I have on my layout, it's like, oh wow, a friend's dad built this building,
Exactly.
and you know what? He never got to have his dream layout, but now it's on mine, and I've got a layout. I've got another structure from another person who passed away. It's a weird way of collecting obituaries, kind of, but
it's a community thing. It's cool. Yeah.
And it's telling a story, right? So it's not just telling the story of railroading in the Connecticut River Valley in the 1940s, but it's also telling all these little stories of people that are still with us and people that have passed, and the legacy of their modeling and their art that lives on here.
Right.
So
that's a celebration. That's cool. Yeah.
Oh, check this out. So this is another example of backdrop colorization. So I started with this photo.
Okay.
And if you go around and look up the road, you see the photo colorized and it made as part of the backdrop.
Oh my God. That's great.
wow.
And you got the octagon window diner, and then the model is 3D.
So not all of the photo is you've got like that little piece of it, but then you've made the rest of it. Goodness.
I mean, it's all selective compression. That's what good modeling is.
Right.
Because very few people have the ability to model a realistic radius curve, although you've kind of done that here, but you're also modeling a branch line.
Exactly. It helps out a lot.
Right.
But it's all the little details that I love to get into. So you've got, these crossbucks, have this little sign. So what I did is I was able to Photoshop out that little sign, and then I was able to replicate them on the crossbuck poles as well. So it's the same, the exact same detail.
That's too cool.
Yeah. And it's a fun thing too, like just as part of the community aspect of it I may not have those skills, but I can trade with a friend for something I'm better at than he is.
Everybody's got their niche and their superpower, and if you trade them off, then you can make yourself a really nice layout because everybody's contributing something.
Yes.
Do you guys like big band music?
Yes.
Glenn
I
Miller?
played big band jazz drums for 10 years.
Okay, here's a story for you, and this is an absolute true story. And it has to do with that diner.
Okay.
So if you know anything about the Glenn Miller story, you know that he had an early band that kind of failed, was not commercially successful. So after that band failed, one of his saxophonists, a guy named Hal McIntyre, his family had a farm in Cromwell, Connecticut. All the instruments from that band got stored at his family's farm in Cromwell, Connecticut. And Hal McIntyre really wanted Glenn to get the band back together.
The
So
band?
the band, the Glenn Miller band. So he kept pestering Glenn. No, you know, I'm going to do something else. I'm not going to do this again. You know, I failed once, whatever. Well, story has it that one day Hal McIntyre got a call and Glenn Miller was on the phone and said, I'm down at the Sunset Diner downtown. Come meet me for a cup of coffee. And so he did, and long story short, Hal McIntyre finally persuaded him at that diner with the octagon windows to start up his band again, and that's the band that went on to great renown and the first gold record and Chattanooga Choo Choo and all of that. The rest is history, and it was right
That
at
is
that diner.
that is too much fun.
What I'm hearing is that diner really gets you in the mood.
Yeah. Well done.
Why? We need mystery citrus over here.
You want to hit me with something? Maybe a little brown jug?
Okay, yeah, you guys are Glenn Miller fans. Well done. Nice.
Okay. Anyway, moving on.
This is the kind of
Gonna
intellectual
send you up a stairway to the stars.
He is. If he's not careful, I'm going to give him the Pennsylvania 65000.
There you go.
Wow.
Can you zoom in and see? I did the dials on the control
Oh,
stand.
you crazy person. This is delightful.
We're going to need to get the macro lens for that.
Yeah,
But yeah.
maybe that.
That's not fair.
There's a reason why we said to come look at the layout.
I get it. Okay. Jesus. Did you hire ants with paintbrushes?
Gauges came done, but it was on a gray control stand, and the prototype had a Pullman green control stand.
Oh my God, so you
So
painted
I did
around
have
it?
to mask the gauges
Oh my
and
God.
airbrush the green on the control stand.
That is excessive, and I'm here for it.
We love this. This is good.
Yes.
That's a Proto 2000 S1, and I've crammed a scale sound system speaker, ES&D V5 decoder, and a Keep Alive, all in there while keeping the cabin tune.
That's impressive. That's impressive.
fair
That's a lot.
That's a lot to cram in.
Yeah. Goodness.
But here's something else you all might want to check out. I mean, for the
You have Glenn Miller in there?
a little bit of a mess, but this is where
This is
paint
the
and
action.
scenery. So this is all the talking about craft paints. So these
Yeah.
are the craft paints to me. I got my spray booth. All the scenery is over here. All the different types of static grass and So
I envy this level of organization.
Also, I'd like to point out that despite the thousands of dollars in brass locomotives you have, the poly-S paints might be the most rare thing that you have.
probably right. And I didn't even show you the flow quill that I've got, but I've been trying to get over to Tamiya now. So that's,
I'm switching over to acrylics.
yes, yeah.
Especially now that you can't get okay. What was the one?
Scale coat?
Scale coat.
Yeah,
That's
right.
it.
Yep. Scale
Can't get
coat,
that
scale coat
anymore.
too,
So
yeah.
it's like.
But I tell you, I was intimidated by the airbrush for years and years and years, and now that I've switched to Tamiya, cut 50-50 with isopropyl alcohol, it's like I can't do anything wrong. I mean, it's so easy. The airbrushing is just so easy that way. It lays nice. If you overdo it a little bit, it'll flash off because of the alcohol. And so I'm really enjoying that. But yeah, so this is where some of the magic happens.
Well, and also you can be airbrushing Tamiya in a small space like this and not get.
Also true. I mean, I did vent out, cut through the sill of the house to vent out my brush booth, and then I've got my respirator.
And I love your.
East End.
I love the Y scene here. Like,
Yeah.
I think Y scenes, like as a focus of a model railroad, are so underrated.
Well, it was. This is. We were talking before about reaching seeding grass, and I definitely had a vision that I wanted Old Saybrook to be the centerpiece as you come down the stairs, but I didn't really have enough room. So I actually discovered that this stud wall was 2 feet off the foundation. So what I did is I took a skill saw and actually cut a hole in the wall to make this big proscenium. And the backdrop is on the foundation wall, and the stud wall is what's forward. And actually, you can see on the floor here, I moved the doorway about 10 inches out to accommodate the main line going through the wall there. But that's how I was able to get the scene to kind of push back a little bit, and then you've got the wide track out front, so you can still get around it, and there's enough space. So,
I love it.
yeah, I have a very, very, very understanding and supportive wife.
Gotta have that. Yes.
You know, so.
Oh goodness.
Yeah, this isn't even the train room. This is just the layout. So the train room is 2 floors up, and yeah. So that's a whole other thing. But that's where all the books and the photos, the photo library for the New Haven Railroad Historical and Technical Association, the president of that, and also the photo archivist. So we've cataloged something like 18,000 images, and no, they're not all online. So there's a finding aid that we have for our authors that make articles and stuff for the Shoreliner magazine, and just about every Thursday we got a bunch of guys coming over and doing that. So this is wow. We got an authentic New Haven Railroad shanty stove that is converted to wood that actually works. This is the room that was my wife's idea, actually, because she knew that I wasn't really jazzed on getting a house like this size, but she was like, oh, you know what, we can get all your train room stuff out of the basement where we get water in the previous house, and it'll be 2 floors up. So
There you go.
so yeah, once we got to this room, after I'd already gotten lost in the house on the tour, she's like, oh, and you can have all your train stuff up here. I'm like, okay, I guess I'm getting this house. So,
Yeah, we can put it that way.
yeah, exactly. So like Chris was saying, one of the things that I do is the photo library for the New Haven Railroad Historical Society, and just about every Thursday night we catalog images, and so we've cataloged about 18,000 images. Most of them are in binders. Prints are in binders, negatives are in file cabinets, and yeah, we'll do that just about every Thursday night. So. This is my latest acquisition. This last fall, I got an actual parlor car chair out of the New Haven Railroad stainless steel passenger car, parlor car. So
That's cool.
so this is the crew lounge. A little inconvenient being 2 floors up from the layout, but Thursday we got a bunch of guys coming over and doing that. But yeah, it's busy, and then I've got a day job too, so which I really want to get rid of. But that's what supports all this stuff. So you need to have some sort of income.
Quite the thing, and thank you so much for
No,
opening it up and showing it off. And
No,
don't you do that to me. Oh, he's playing dirty now.
Awesome.
Well, you said open it up, so I had a roof. I figured out.
Oh, you.
No, that's all Schneider.
That is grotesque, disgusting,
Perverted.
not allowed. We're gonna have to censor that for the video. The children can't see that.
Oh yeah, this is not made for kids.
Oh my goodness. I'm a signal nerd, so love that.
Bill just did all the interlocking piping on his layout. He's got an interlocking between the O&W and the D&H, and he was just posting some pictures of the piping that he did, and I'm just like, okay, I gotta level up my game and do the piping and the rods and all that.
Oh yeah, all the madness.
Yeah. Eventually, I need a couple more lifetimes.
Yeah, but it's one of those things like, okay, is this detail going to really? I mean, if I walked down and saw that, I would be the one person that'd be like, oh, and then probably, you'd get a couple other people that would be like, oh, but most people would be like, huh?
Yeah, it's like,
But-
what is that all about?
Yeah, the pretty grass and the everything else done everywhere else first is probably a higher priority than wooing the signal nerds.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean,
Three of you.
yeah, I mean, getting a level of finish on the whole layout, that's the goal. Just kind of a level base level scenery, scenic, some static grass, and the ties done, and then. It's like everything else. It's layers. Just keep doing multiple passes.
Sure. Well, thank you so much.
Channel, do you want to end with the R3 starting up and
Naturally.
pulling out?
Why not?
So we'll do that.
I see you've given Rapido and Intermountain a lot of your money.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Acurail.
Too much fun. That's cool. Oh, so you've got reverse loops on both ends.
Yep.
Okay, cool.
That was much quicker than I expected.
That was the shorter of the dog block.
Yeah.
I thought I went back further.
We do love prototype ops, but Leighton and I are both very much fans of the layout where you can just drink beer and watch train and tell story.
This is the only place on this railroad where you can really.
I was
do
gonna
that.
say, yeah.
Everything else is pretty much point to point. That's what maximum momentum will get for you. I had it braking all the way through Saybrook.
Well, it's got a lot of cars behind it,
does
you
have a lot
know.
of cars behind it, and not all of them have air. So.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, did you have to bore the brake pipe out of it?
Yeah, exactly.
I hate to tell you this, but your physics isn't 1/87 scale.
Yeah, the Square Cube Law would like to know your location. It's a gorgeous looking engine. With the pumps on the front, the Alesco. There's so much going on in the smoke box. It's cool. And then all the external plumbing on top for the turrets and everything, and it's got the dual sand domes.
Yep.
It's cool. Awesome.
Cool engine, huh?
Very cool engine. And very cool layout.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much for showing it off. I mean,
it's
goodness.
my pleasure.
The little bit of varied operations to be had, and it seems like you could really have a lot of action going on, fast clock, actual timetable, switching, a little bit of something for everybody.
A little bit of everything.
That's cool, and a very good utilization of space. Yeah. Oh, cool.
Well, if you come next year, I'll hopefully be able to set up an off session for you.
Okay. All right. They're trying to get me to come back to Amherst, everybody.
Yeah, there you go.
So far, so good. So, I mean, goodness.
Yeah. Jury's out. Wait until see how you feel Sunday night after 2 full days of this.
We were at the show for less than 2 hours earlier today, and we got stopped by 15 random people that wanted to meet me.
Nice.
And I'm
Very
like,
cool.
that's I'm used to it at this point, but not to that level and that amount of time on a day it's not open to the public.
And they're not even open today, so wait until tomorrow on Sunday.
It's going to be a time.
Yep.
But it's going to be a good time.
That'll be an awesome time.
It's going to be great. I'm
So
excited
glad you guys were
to
able
meet
to
everyone.
visit.
Yeah. Thank you so much for opening your home and showing off the layout. It's absolutely wonderful. And
Thank you.
we hope you all enjoyed taking a look at the layout as well. So as always, thank you so much for watching, and let us know what you'd like to see next time.